Hey everyone, welcome back to Common Sense OT Security. My name is Anthony Jackson from OTbase Customer Success. Here's something I want you to imagine. Let's say you are an IT professional, you've been doing this for years, maybe a decade or two. You know networks, you know security, you've done your hands full, well, your share of, compliance and audits, and you probably even have some battle scars from handling ransomware incidents. Let's say one day corporate taps you on the shoulder and says, uh, you're good at security and we want you to do security for our plant systems too. So you think to yourself, well, networks are networks, just a different environment. I got this. And that right there, that confidence, that's the first problem. Now, I'm not saying, it's wrong to be confident, but your skills do transfer. But here's the one thing that no one tells you. OT environments work differently. They have different physics, different consequences, different cultures, and some of the instincts that made you successful in IT could potentially cause harm in OT. So today we are going to talk about 3 rookie mistakes that IT professionals make when coming to OT. Mistake number 1, I need to see everything that's on the network. Let me go ahead and run the scan. You see, in IT, this is completely standard. You spin up an Nmap or whatever tools you use to do your scanning, and you build a picture of the environment. It's a practical reflex, yes. But how can you secure something if you don't know what's there? The logic seems absolutely sound. The problem is the tool that you'll be using. Here's what can happen in OT. You fire up that IT scanner and somewhere on the network, there's a PLC from who knows, 2003. So when it gets hammered by these IT tools, when it gets hammered by these IT tools, the scanning or, the port probing, it literally doesn't speak that language. So it gets confused and it faults and then stops. So when a PLC stops, the physical process it was controlling also stops too. Or even worse, it fails unpredictably. We've talked to engineers who've seen IT scanning tools crash HMIs in the middle of active operations. And I've heard stories of batch processes ruined because a routine network scan caused a controller to hiccup at the exact moment, exactly at the wrong moment, sorry. So does this mean you can't do discovery in OT? That you're stuck with spreadsheets and just tribal knowledge? No, not exactly. You just have to use the right type of discovery. Here's what actually works in an OT environment, and that is active discovery, because you are using the native industrial protocols. If you think about it this way, that PLC you're worried about crashing, it talks to things all day long. It talks to engineering workstations, talks to HMIs, it talks to tools like RS links, and that's normal. That's expected, yes. The device literally is designed to respond to those types of queries. The problem with IT scanners isn't that they're active, it is because they are foreign. They speak an entirely different language that the device just doesn't understand. And the thing about it, it does it at volume and a pace that these OT devices just can't handle. Just the influx of scanning, it just overwhelms a PLC. Proper OT discovery tools speak in native protocols. So when you query a Rockwell PLC, you use SIP, Ethernet over IP, the same way RS Links does. When you talk to a Siemens device, you use S7. You're having a normal conversation with that device in its own language. So think of it as you politely asking that device, "Hey, what's your model number? What firmware are you running? What modules do you have installed?" And the device answers back. And that's because that's what it was built to do. This isn't some workaround or compromise. Active discovery using native protocol is actually better than passive approaches. You see, with passive discovery, where you're just listening to network traffic, it only sees devices that are actively communicating. If there's a PLC off in a corner somewhere just running its process and not chatting on the network at that particular moment, passive is just going to miss it entirely. You end up with an incomplete inventory, and incomplete inventories create blind spots. Active discovery finds out everything. It queries the network, it gets responses, it builds a complete picture. And when you're done doing it with right tools, you're not just getting something that says, an IP address exists. You're getting deep details. Serial numbers, firmware versions, install modules, and software configurations. The stuff that actually matters when you need to track down vulnerabilities or verify a configuration. The other huge advantage is that you can run this continuously. The best OT discovery tools run automatically every 24 hours. For example, you're not just getting a snapshot, you're getting ongoing visibility. When a new device appears on the network, you instantly know about it. When someone changes a configuration, you catch it. And that's how you stay ahead of the pack and catch these unauthorized changes before, serious problems occur. So what's the key takeaway here? Your instinct to discover what's on the network is correct. Visibility is foundational and you absolutely need it, but the tool is important. Mistake number 2, patching everything right now. Mistake number 2, there's a critical vulnerability. We need to patch it now. In IT, this is sacred. We have things like Patch Tuesdays. When a critical CVE drops, you test it, you deploy it, and you move on. Leaving systems unpatched is negligence. And you probably had this drilled into your head by every auditor, every framework, every security vendor on the planet. And in IT, they're right. In OT, it's more complicated. Let me paint you a picture. You've got a Windows-based workstation that's part of a SCADA system. It's running Windows 7, yes, in the current year, and you've discovered it's vulnerable. To something real nasty. Let's say, I don't know, the latest virus that's out there. So your IT brain screams, "Yo, we need to patch this quick. We need to upgrade the OS. What's this even doing here in the first place?" But here's something you might not know. That workstation is running automation software that was validated, certified to work on this Windows 7 operating system, under this Windows 7 operating system. The vendor explicitly does not support, the latest operating system, maybe Windows 10 or 11. And if you upgrade the OS, you might break compatibility. The software might not work or might not even launch. And even if the patch may not break compatibility, it most likely will require a reboot. And we all know what reboots do in OT. Rebooting means taking the system offline. And taking the system offline means stopping production. Stopping production might mean hundreds of thousands of dollars loss per hour. So, what looks like a 15-minute patch job turns into unplanned an unplanned maintenance window in OT. This requires coordination with operations, sign offs from plant managers, and the maintenance crew standing by in case something goes wrong. So, what do you do instead? First, you accept that patching is not always the answer in OT. Sometimes it is. Absolutely. Absolutely patch what you can when you can, but you need some sort of prioritization framework when you do your patching. Which vulnerabilities actually matter? Is this system exposed to the network, or is it air gap behind layers of firewalls? What's the attack? What's the actual attack path? And maybe the answer is, hey, we'll accept this risk for now and we'll just put it on the schedule for the next planned maintenance. The point is, you need context. You need to understand not just the vulnerability, but the system, the process, the business impact. Mistake number 3. We need to move fast and fix this. This one is less about a specific technology and more about a mindset. In IT, you're probably used to moving quickly, fail fast, learn faster. When there's a security gap, you fix it. You push the change, you improve. That sense of urgency is valuable, but in OT, it can get you in trouble. Engineers know everything about their systems, every quirk, every workaround, even the reason why that one setting is configured the way it is, even though it looks wrong to you. When you come in with IT energy, of let's fix this, let's change that, let's modernize, you're going to meet some resistance from the floor engineers. And it's not because OT people are dinosaurs afraid of change. It's mainly because they know what can happen when things go wrong. They've seen the quick fix that caused other problems. They've also seen the upgrade. They've also seen the quick fix that caused problems. They've also seen the upgrade that introduced problems that were worse than the original problem. Change in OT requires process. It requires change management. It requires testing, most of all. And finally, it requires plans to roll back in case, the change introduces more bugs. And it requires buy-in from operations, the engineering team, and from maintenance also. So what do you do instead? First off, you slow down. But initially, while you're learning the environment. Everything is built from trust. And in order to build trust, you have to form relationships. So it's recommended that you build relationships before you start building any projects in your new environment, this new OT environment. Ask questions instead of giving recommendations. Figure out and understand why things are the way they are before you even propose changes in OT. And when you do propose a change, do it collaboratively. Bring operations and engineering into the conversation early. This allows, people from other teams to trust you. A real roadblock that we see is that not a lot of other departments in OT will trust new IT people because they don't know them. They haven't built a rapport. And when you build trust, who knows? The guy from engineering could be that one person that will be your evangelist and say, hey, look, yeah, it's we need this. You have to find your partners when you are dealing with people inside of an OT environment. The IT pros who thrive in OT are the ones who stay curious, stay humble, and adapt their approach to fit the environment. You can. That's it for today. If this episode was useful, share it with an IT colleague who volunteered to jump into the world of OT. And until next time, stay secure, stay sensible, and always remember in OT, common sense isn't always common.